than election interference. It is on full display. And we would appreciate if
Alexa, turn off music.
would just start coming forward and admitting.
Alexa, turn off music.
It should be just as easy for Congress to pass this resolution as it is for the courts to dismiss those cases. Or, as I like to say, if we were trying to pass a resolution to spend another several $1 billion to help, say, Ukraine, maybe then we could get everybody in Congress lined up to support the resolution, because those seem to go through pretty fast. So let's get everybody on this now so that we can put out in the public sphere that Congress does recognize that there was not an insurrection that took place on January 6th, just as the courts have already put it in the record. Whether the charges were brought in Michigan or Minnesota, they've been dismissed. I look forward to the Supreme Court doing the exact same thing and vindicating our president so we can be on with this removal of him from different ballots. I stood with President Trump since the beginning, including when I voted against the electors on January the 6th, after numerous credible allegations of election fraud were shared with us, after numerous allegations of state officials changing the election process without legislative approval. Those are the facts, folks. Those are the facts. And the Electors Act gave us the ability, gave us the directive to refuse to accept those electors.
Yo, what you need?
If we didn't feel...
Yeah, player. We'll get it to you.
And so myself, and I would say everyone here that's not a freshman, voted against the electors from Arizona. That's correct. And we voted against the electors from Pennsylvania. That's correct, because that information and those facts were there. And the facts, again, will come clear. And as I always say, the truth isn't always pretty, but it is always the truth. The truth will prevail. It will be shown that President Trump did not cause this insurrection. And then once again, we can eliminate this election interference that has been conducted upon him for so long. I appreciate your time, and I would like to introduce my good friend from Missouri, Representative Eric Burleson.
I think I want to first say thank you to Representative Gates and Elise Stefanik for leading this resolution. Look, this town started the witch hunt the moment that President Trump was elected.
Yep.
And it began.
It's been four fucking years not doing no fucking job trying to impeach Donald Trump. 4 fucking years.
There was the phone call, which was ironically the very thing that an administration ought to be looking at, and what we're looking at today, which is corruption by the previous administration in Ukraine. It's sad that we have to do the job that you're supposed to be doing in the press. And that's why the American people are frustrated. And as you can imagine, that's why many of them came to their nation's capital in frustration, not just at what they saw happening in the election process, but because they were frustrated with you, the media, who they felt like they couldn't trust anymore. And so they're in the Capitol, and you know what's ironic? Not one of them was armed. I come from Missouri where a lot of people are armed. Not one of the people up here was armed. And I don't know how you're going to take over the Capitol if you're not armed.
Thank you.
So first of
Thank you. How the fuck that can be insurrection?
To say that
asshole.
Paint and Bison Horns is here to
dumbass.
take over the Capitol. Okay?
They really think we're really fucking
when I was
stupid.
in the Missouri Capitol, we had protesters come in all the time. We would call what happened on that day a Wednesday in the Missouri Capitol. Okay? We welcome free speech. We welcome people telling us what we should be doing, how to vote. Letting people express their frustration peacefully through their elected process and their First Amendment rights. Because as our founders have said, if they can't do it through that process, they will do it through a more violent process. And it's your job in the press to uphold those First Amendment rights. And it's your job to make sure that people's rights are being taken away, and ultimately that people know and have trust in you and this government. At the end of the day, you can't say that Trump was involved in insurrection when there was no insurrection. That's at the end of the day. And it's ridiculous that this place continues to clutch pearls towards an individual who represents the interests of most people in this country, most hardworking, blue-collar Americans in this country that just love their country. Thank you. Oh, sorry. My good buddy from Georgia, Representative Mike Collins.
Thank you. This is my first term in Congress, so I've spent the last 30 years in the private sector, in the trucking industry.
Welcome to Planet Fitness.
Join during the Big Fitness Energy Sale, dealing February 16th.
I know what it felt like during those Obama years to see a far left swing and overreach by this federal government. And I was also on that other side of the ledger and saw what it felt like when the Trump administration came in and put America first, put Americans first, put money back in their pocket, and gave them their power.
Fucking right.
You see, Hillary Clinton was supposed to complete the mission of Obama.
Sure it was. Sure it was.
Trump stood in the way
Yep.
and gave that power back to the people.
Yep.
That's
And then y'all let Joe Biden steal the fucking power.
That he was going to run.
Steal it.
They were worried and scared about that. They knew what could happen if he won.
Yep.
That's why they spent years trying to destroy him personally,
Yep.
destroy his business,
Yep.
even destroy his family.
Yep.
The only thing that this guy did was disagree with the results of the election in 2020.
Yep.
He didn't call for violence.
Nope.
But you see, the left-wing media and the left wing in this country,
Switch that shit.
they're out to not just make an example out of Trump.
Yep. Make an example
They're
out of
make
us.
sure that anybody else that steps up that has that America First agenda, that never get tired of winning, oh man, you're going to think about running for this position.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what we did to Trump. Look at what we did to his family. Look at what we did to regular Americans that just came up here to peacefully protest and express their opinion about an election.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, the only thing the Democrats have right now, and what this president has, is an America at last. We're not feared in the world, and our enemies don't fear us. Our economy's in shambles. Inflation's sky high. So what do we got to do now? We've got to keep Trump off that ballot. That's what we got to do, by any means necessary. But the resolution right here, this is where the House of Representatives, we're taking a stand. And we're going to declare what is self-evident, and that is President Trump did not engage in insurrection or rebellion on January 6th, and by God, I'm proud to stand here with 60 of my colleagues and to do just that. And with that, I would like to yield some time to a good buddy of mine out of Arizona, Representative Eli Crump. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Matt and Ms. Stefanik, for leading on this. You know what I love about this, watching where President Trump is at in the polls? I love it because it shows the American people don't trust you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys are full of it and everybody knows it.
Yep.
There's a few honest journalists in this town, but they're very few and far between. You know how I know it wasn't an insurrection? Because he hasn't been charged with insurrection.
Nah.
And we can all see by the lawfare how he's facing up over 700 years in jail right now, how they did try to destroy this man, destroy his businesses. And if they felt they had an inkling of a chance of convicting President Trump of jaywalking or insurrection, they would absolutely charge him.
Yep.
You know how else I know it's not an insurrection? Because this is the first insurrection in the history of the world where the people that were a part of it were unarmed. Pretty hard to do if you walk around and see how many individuals are carrying firearms.
Nah.
All right. Last thing I want to say about how I know it's not an insurrection is because I actually listened to the words of the president. If you're trying to stoke an insurrection, you don't tell the people listening, hey, I want you to go over there peacefully and patriotically.
Thank you, dumbass.
All right? This is not an insurrection. What it is a party that's scared to death of this man because he's America first, and he's shown time and time again he's willing to bust up the swamp.
and he continues to beat you like a drum.
Yep.
That's what this is really about. And for all you journalists out there, you know, that are pretty cowardly, some in this room right now, you don't have the balls to write the truth. And even if you did, your publishers wouldn't publish it because you're a part of a propaganda outlet, probably one of the biggest in the history of the world. If you had any courage, I want you to ask some questions about that day, January 6th, that we keep talking about. Why has the pipe bomber not been caught yet?
Nah.
Nah. Why has the pipe
Talk to
bomber
us.
not been caught?
Talk to
One
us.
individual that could have committed multiple
Come on.
mass
Come on.
casualties has not been caught
Come
yet.
on, now you could have killed the vice president.
Go follow some of Beatty's reporting over at Revolver News. He's got some evidence for you guys. What's going on up here with January 6th is there's a pretty big cover-up actually going on up here in Capitol Hill about some of the involvement of our government, and it's quite unsavory. And I want to acknowledge Rep. Massey's work on this lately and others who have been trying to get to the bottom of it. But here's some other questions for you journalists to ask. Why did it take so long for Ray Epps to be charged?
Nah.
Go watch videos of Ray Epps on that day and how he was stoking the entire thing and how long it took him to be charged, and yet there were so many people that were brought into the D.C. jail, and they're still there to this day.
Yep.
So if you guys want to ask some questions, those are some questions. But the bottom line is we all know President Trump did not commit insurrection, and he's probably going to be the president of the United States once again. And so I'm happy to be a part of this resolution. I'm happy to support the president, and I'm happy to call out all you little cowardly liars in the press. Thank you. I want to now welcome my friend Harriet Hageman to come up. She here? All right, going down the list. You thought I was bad. Wait till this one gets up here. I want to welcome Miss Anna Paulina Luna.
Thank you. Thank you. To follow up on what Representative Crane had stated, you know, we have the ability and at our disposal tools to find terrorists in caves in the Middle East, and you can't find someone who planted a pipe bomb. That's pretty egregious, but we have evidence that the government really helped to cover up what was happening, and I will just point all of you to what happened at Oversight, where we actually questioned Twitter 1.0. We saw that under the Department of Homeland Security, CISA was actually working to not only suppress information, to include the president's statement to remain peaceful on January 6th. Remember how I said that? Yet it was nowhere on social media. It's because these outlets, whether it was Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they're all working to suppress that information. But I wonder why. I wonder why they would want to do that. And it's because this president is truly a man that is outside of the D.C. control. And frankly, that's why every single person, I'm pretty sure up here, has endorsed him for re-election. And he's going to win in November. But I wanted to ask you all questions on whether or not you think that we should be charging someone like Hillary Clinton with insurrection.
Yep.
Someone like Stacey Abrams with insurrection, because they all claim that they won elections. We know that Hillary Clinton was full of it. We know that because we saw what come out. In fact, you guys know that I all censored Adam Schiff over it. There was no evidence of Russia collusion. So I want to close with saying this. What we've seen happen over the last couple of years has not only been depressing as a member of Congress to witness how much people up here have actually used that lie, used that narrative, not just to smear President Trump, but to tear apart this country. But I do applaud what Representative Gates has done. And what I will say is that those sociopaths that continue to push this lie, once we have this on the floor, if you continue to push this, you guys are all going to be guilty of breaching House privileges, okay? Because we're saying that it didn't happen. We have evidence to back it up. So just think on that for a little bit. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend Corey Mills and fellow colleague from Florida.
Thank you so much. I want to point out a couple of obvious statements. These have been out there from the very beginning. One is right here. You want to talk about inciting violence, inciting an insurrection. You want to talk about the ideas of promoting violence. Well, right here you've got Kamala Harris, who is actually trying to raise funds for the very people who are setting fire to our cities in 2020. Why don't we go look at Minneapolis? Why don't we go look at Seattle, New York, Baltimore? Why don't we look at what CHOP was doing, what was being encouraged? Why don't we look at Maxwell Waters, who said we need to be more confrontational, or Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, who said, I'm surprised there's not more people out in the streets rioting. Now let's look at what President Trump said, however. He said, these things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long.
That's the
Go
truth.
home with love and in peace.
That man.
Remember this day forever. Well, you're right. The media did remember this day forever, and so did the left, who continued to try and vilify it as something that it is not. But let me be clear. President Trump did not incite violence. This was not an insurrection. If this is an insurrection, then what about all the pro-Hamas members who sit in our Capitol and disrupt legislation, which just happened last week? Was that an insurrection? It was an unarmed group who was disrupting federal legislative process. That's what everyone in the media and all the left continues to try and claim. But the bottom line is that it was never about policing, and it was all about politics. This is election interference. This is trying to remove someone that they know will be the president of the United States, someone who was the 45th, 46th, and will be the 47th president of the United States. This is about ensuring that they can try and remove him from the ballot by attacking his family, by attacking his businesses, by claiming that there was a false narrative set up for fraud regarding the actual valuation of his property Mar-a-Lago, which 20 years ago was valued higher than what they're trying to claim it is today. This is about lawfare, whether it be Fani Willis in the DA's office, whether it be the AGs, whether it be the Department of Justice. The bottom line is that this was never about trying to prosecute the president and all about trying to have him removed for election interference. Let me be clear. The United States House of Representatives stand strongly and firmly behind the president. We will not allow the lies out of the media and the left to continue on, and I am honored to stand here and support my good friend and colleague, another Florida man, Representative Matt Gaetz, and our chairwoman, Elise Stefanik, to make sure that we once and for all put it to bed that President Trump did not incite violence. He did not lead an insurrectionist. What he did was he stood for the American people, and I'll stand for him. With that, I'll go ahead and turn this over to my good friend from Texas, Mr. Keith Self.
Thank you, Corey. You've heard here the hypocrisy, the two-tier justice system. I want to share a story with you. 4 women from my district traveled on January the 6th to the National Mall. They were nowhere near the Capitol. They saw the smoke, but didn't even know what was going on. They went home. 3 of them actually put on social media pictures in their account. 1 did not. Guess which 3 were visited by the FBI? Yeah, you got it. Look, we've heard a lot about Section 3 of the 14th Amendment as they've attacked President Trump. What you're not looking at is Section 5 of the 14th Amendment that specifically in the Constitution gives the Congress the ability to act on this. Look at Section 5. And I will tell you, as we go through this, what we want a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people, rather than a nation of media, by media,
Come on.
and a trial for the media. This shall not stand. I am proud to stand here with both my friends, Representative Gaetz and Stefanik. And with that, I introduce Dan Webster. Well, I can't say much more than has been said. However, there was an event that I attended. There was no one here on this stage, no one in Congress, no one staff, no one except myself. Most of the rest are dead. That was in 2000. There was another ballot question. It was in Florida, and it was Bush versus Palm Beach County Canvassing Board. And in that decision, not a 5-4 decision, it was pure quorum. It was the court. The court decided that what was done was wrong. They told the Supreme Court of Florida they were wrong. They told them to modify their decision based on what this decision was. And because of that, a lot of the things that were done that people have criticized for us, especially the Senate and the House voting and objecting to the results, That was allowed. Matter of fact, it was talked about in that case. The reason nobody brought that up is because nobody knew about it. So the only one that did was Justice Thomas, and Justice, let's see, one other. I guess the one that came in with Bush, because he wouldn't have been there had that not gone that way. So, all I can tell you is that case said it was, if anything was done in the election, done after the fact, done without the permission of the state legislature, was invalid. And that was their ruling. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just a 5-4 decision. It was pure. Ginsburg was there, and so was Scalia. And they both agreed. Because it was the right thing. And so unfortunately, I tried to call some. I called the president and Speaker of the House of Pennsylvania and Minnesota and Wisconsin, other places. Actually, Arizona called me and gave them all the details of why. They said, you're right, but we don't have the courage to say this election is wrong. We can't do it. And so they didn't. So all I know is President Trump is innocent. And that's been proven by the courts. Thank you, Matt Gaetz, for doing what you did. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's take some of your questions. Michael?
Thanks, Michael. Are you going to be putting this in the floor as a privileged resolution?
In its current form, it's not privileged, but I know that our leadership holds the views that undergird what we're pushing. No.
Have you received any assurances from the speakership that they will put this in the floor and talk about it?
I haven't. I sat next to him for 7 years in the Judiciary Committee, though, so I'm pretty sure as to where he stands. I have. He was thrilled that so many members had signed on. It's really incredible to have 63 original co-sponsors to anything, and President Trump was heartened by as many supporters who are backing our legislative endeavor.
Yeah. So the former president was acquitted on this. So what makes this different?
I think that the House of Representatives has a special and unique voice here. I don't believe that the efforts of lawfare by the left and some of these bureaucrats in states have concluded. I think that they will persist and may take different form or fashion. And so the fact that the House would stand and say, we assert our sense that this was not an insurrection, could have legal significance as well as significance for the body.
Congressman, can you talk about why hundreds of Trump supporters did attack the Capitol and fight the police that day? It wasn't Donald Trump wanting them to do that. Was it the FBI manipulating them? Was it Antifa?
Yep, the FBI manipulated.
We tried to get those answers. I mean, one of the most searing pieces of evidence we developed was when George Hill, a former FBI official whistleblower, said that he couldn't get information out of the Washington field office regarding cases that they were pushing out to Boston because the Washington field office said they had so many confidential human sources that were in the group that they wouldn't share that information. When there were follow-up questions directed at Christopher Wray, at Lisa Monaco, at Merrick Garland, both in the House and Senate, they got real squirrely as to whether or not those federal assets had increased the level of criminal acuity. So as I think Mr. Biggs said during his remarks, there were people who were violent at that riot, and they should not have been. But that is a very different thing than declaring that President Trump engaged in an insurrection. He wasn't here. He said he wanted people to be peaceful and patriotic. Like, I never even really, like, insurrection isn't a term we interacted with frequently before getting to Congress. Like, you never heard about the insurrection on the Little League board or at the local Kiwanis Club. But because it has this legal significance, it's been lashed to President Trump unfairly, and that's what we're trying to remediate. I'll give you a follow-up.
Field office. He testified in a deposition. He said they did not send anybody to be part of that crowd. And incidentally, there might have been people who had been trailing folks from other states who came here, but that they didn't do anything to participate.
Yes, it came as no surprise to us that the Washington field office didn't confess
to their own actions and cover-up. But there is contravening evidence that was presented by whistleblowers saying that what the Washington field offices told you is not true, and they were able to cite specific phone calls, conversations, conference calls where a very different sentiment was expressed.
Hey, so
Yes.
I know you've been there already, but Pooh just called and said I can come through and get a tour of Dre's studio as a thank you for what we did for him. Lamar crazy ass her, so you know that fool gonna be here too. But it's gonna be cool. We'll do it whenever it's good for you. Man, I'm excited for this.
During President Trump's time, the economy was growing tremendously, and so we were focused on the growth that must be a feature of our deficit and debt reduction strategies. And now many of the colleagues that are gathered here are working to put downward pressure on spending, and we wish we had a willing partner in the White House and in the Senate to do so, and that's created some of our challenges in that regard. Yes, ma'am?
I was curious, when the House voted to impeach Donald Trump for inciting an insurrection in 2021, 10 Republicans joined in that measure. Do you think you'll get any Democrats joining on this?
I don't know. If they follow the facts and the law, they'd be with us. But, you know, the whispers from those 10 voices get softer and softer by the day.
So are still your colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, if you bat 200, that it won't get you into a starting lineup, much less the Hall of Fame.
Sorry, go 1 second. I was a Democrat. I was the one that voted. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons, one of many, that I changed parties.
Did you give yourself a question of DOJ pressure asking if they're going to do anything about it, or if they have investigations going on regarding the pipe bombers that day?
Yeah, we have been in a number of conversations with Capitol Police and with the DOJ regarding the pipe bomber. We just learned last week that the Capitol Police fessed up to the fact that it was a plainclothes Capitol Police officer who found the pipe bomb. As Mr. Crane indicated, Thomas Massey has built the video evidence around that, and it seemed to be sort of odd that people were eating sandwiches and watching children walk by, and the vice president was just steps away, and that there didn't seem to be the type of concern and response that you would have if there really was a fear that there might be an explosion there. So, yeah, there's still a mystery there with the pipe bomber, but certainly we've seen in pleadings the government use the pipe bomb as a mechanism to try to enhance punishment and sentencing for people. If, in fact, it was a bit of a ruse, that would have been unfair. I'll give you a follow-up.
Yeah, I'll just talking about kind of, but considering you guys already nuked the media up here, did you want to add to what Congressman Green, Congressman Bober just said about the media?
I never try to perfect on the sentiment of Ms. Green and Ms. Bober. Yes.
There was a conversation last year, I think, in the middle of the year, about potentially expunging Trump's impeachments. There were 2 of those resolutions. Why go ahead with this resolution rather than one of the expungement resolutions?
Speaking to insurrection specifically has greater legal utility than the expungement of an impeachment, because you have these unelected bureaucrats who are trying to use the term insurrection in a very tortured and undemocratic way. The expungement of the impeachments is something certainly I would support, but that has a different legal effect. Well,
is there like a practical sort of implication if this passes? Would this help Trump legally in court, or is this just a symbolic?
No, I think that it would be incredibly helpful legally if we were to adopt this provision. You know, I've been the victim of federal crimes. I know what it's like when prosecutors regularly consult the victim to understand what the victim's expectations are. If we're the purported victim in Congress and we're saying this was not an insurrection, I think that would hold a great deal of weight. Yes.
Do you think, or are you hoping that the Supreme Court will weigh in this resolution if it comes to a vote? And then secondly, isn't this resolution also a way of testing the loyalty of House Republicans or their support towards Donald Trump if it comes to a vote?
The answer to your first question is I don't know that the Supreme Court has a mechanism by which to address a sense of Congress resolution. I think there are a number of legal matters that are working their way to the court, and our expectation is that the court will not embrace the anti-democratic impulses that we've seen elsewhere. And whether or not this is a loyalty test to President Trump, I'll leave that to the members and President Trump to determine. I think if this lasts too much longer, this meeting will become an insurrection. But I'll give you the last question. Sure.
This is a non-binding resolution, though. So if you're worried about the legality, why not? Because, Article 14 does provide a way for Congress to make sure Trump is on the ballot, 2/3 vote. Why not pursue that?
The best is yet to come. Thank you all so much. Good job.
RSV is out there for those 60 years and older. Protect against RSV with Arexvy. Arexvy is a vaccine used to prevent lower respiratory disease from RSV in people 60 years and older. Arexvy does not protect everyone, and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients. Those with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most common side effects are injection site pain, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, and joint pain.
I chose Arexvy.
RSV?